On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, U.S. destroyers have sailed through the Strait of Hormuz. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So yesterday, CAVASSHIPS published a podcast I did with them talking about the Strait of Hormuz, specifically talking about how what the effects of the choked point was on global shipping. And one of the things I commented on in the video is I was believing that the U.S. Navy was in the midst of planning something, that we were about to see something happen. Well, I got a note yesterday afternoon from a fairly high person in the government giving me an indication that, yeah, just sit back, you're about to see something. Well, we did. 2 U.S. destroyers have sailed into the Strait of Hormuz. So this was posted over on X at 12:35 this afternoon. U.S. forces start mine clearance mission in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command forces began setting conditions for clearing mines in the Strait of Hormuz. April 11th as 2 U.S. Navy guided missile destroyers conducted operations. USS Frank E Peterson, DDG-121, and USS Michael Murphy, DDG-112, transited the Strait of Hormuz and operated in the Arabian Gulf as part of a broader mission to ensure the strait is fully clear of sea mines previously laid by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of CENTCOM, said this, quote, "Today we began the process of establishing a new passage, and we will share this safe pathway with the maritime industry soon to encourage the free flow of commerce." The statement ends, "The Strait of Hormuz is an international sea passage and an essential trade corridor that supports regional and global economic prosperity. Additional U.S. forces, including underwater drones, will join the clearance effort in the coming days." So kind of suspected that the U.S. naval forces in the Arabian Gulf had pulled back. We saw ships pulling in and being pierside down in Diego Garcia. There was a statement by President Trump that the Abraham Lincoln Battle Group shot down 101 inbound missiles or drones targeted at them. That indicates to me an expenditure of a lot of weaponry from the escorting destroyers. So the only place they could resupply would be down in Diego Garcia, and we kind of saw indications of that with resupply ships heading down there and ships going pierside at Diego Garcia. It also explains why Iran shot 2 intermediate range ballistic missiles at Diego Garcia. Well, once those ships were reloaded, ready to go, what we're seeing now is this entrance into the Persian Gulf. And we kind of had a hint about it too today looking at marine traffic. All right, take you over here to marine traffic. I want to highlight a couple of things here for you. This is the official traffic separation scheme. This is where the normal channel is. The upper one here that you see, these are the inbound lanes. So you sail to the right as you go through this traffic lane. The bottom ones here, the ones to the south here, are the outbound lanes. And these are the actual traffic separation schemes. Now, what you have had happen here is the Iranians have tried to alter this. So this shows you territorial waters here in Iran, in the area. This specifically is Iranian territorial waters. So you'll see that the traffic separation scheme just above Oman here is actually in Omani waters. So what Iran has tried to do is shift this traffic scheme into their waters. This is the image that they have released, and what they have done is declared the old traffic separation scheme off limits. They have alluded to that the area may be mined. We got that statement from the Iranian deputy foreign minister in an interview with ITV. We talked about it yesterday, and what they have done is created this new traffic separation scheme here, which basically has this area, this new lane coming in here and going between Larak and Kisham Island. And then that's the inbound lane. And then the outbound lane goes north of the previous traffic separation scheme. So that issue here is the big problem. Iran was trying to take over control of passage in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. So I'm going to play here the playback for the past 24 hours through the Strait of Hormuz. I'm going to speed it up here just a little bit as we go. And one of the things you begin to see here is that the ships are avoiding the traditional traffic separation scheme and instead heading up north into Iranian waters. And here you see a big convoy forming up right here, coming in into Iranian waters, heading for that outbound lane. They'll pass just south here of Larak, above the normal traffic separation scheme. Here you see inbound vessels coming in. So we're seeing that traffic separation scheme being fully used here by ships on their passage out. So for example, here are several vessels coming out right now. You see them passing south of Larak Island, swinging down here and along the coast of Iran here, staying in completely in Iranian territorial waters. Going to hold it right here. U.S. government vessel 112 appears right here. Go ahead and zoom in here a little bit. So U.S. government vessel 112 is the USS Michael Murphy. Now, I got to tell you, you just don't throw AIS on by accident, you on a Navy ship. This is purposeful. They wanted to turn this on the far side of the Strait of Hormuz to demonstrate that they have sailed through. We didn't get it from the other ship that's with them, the Frank Peterson, but we got it from the Michael Murphy. And Navy ships do have AIS. They typically don't. What we've seen since the start of the war in Iran, all Navy ships have gone dark. Ships entering into the Indian Ocean, coming out of the Strait of Malacca, or southbound out of the Suez Canal, have turned off their AIS. So the fact that the Michael Murphy turned it on is fairly significant. So come over here. These were those outbound ships that were coming out. So here is the first tanker we saw. This is the He Rong Hei, Chinese flag vessel showing Chinese vessel and crew. That vessel was coming out of Ras Tanura, the Saudi Arabian facility. Over here is the Cospearl Lake, Hong Kong flag vessel showing Chinese owner and crew. That vessel was coming out of Al Basra, that is Iraq. And then this tanker outbound is the Liberian flagged Seraphos. It came out of Jebel Ali, heading over to Malaysia. So this is a absolutely interesting evolution here. I think what we're seeing here is, number one, the Iranian lane is in full force. Ships are using it, particularly Chinese vessels. But at the same time, in come these two U.S. destroyers. What we haven't seen, and if this is a precursor for checking mines, is the three littoral combat ships. The Canberra, the Tulsa, and the Santa Barbara. Those three vessels have each two unmanned mine-sweeping craft that they can launch that would be used to determine that. I'm not sure what procedure the Peterson and the Murphy did, whether they followed in the minesweepers or they just went ahead in without the minesweepers, or else the U.S. didn't think minesweeping was an issue. But one of the things that commercial ships were waiting to see was whether or not this strait was clear, and sailing two destroyers in is a big one. I go back to an event that happened during the Falklands War when Admiral Sandy Woodward sent HMS Ardent through the channel between East and West Falkland to determine whether or not there were mines. And so sending HMS Ardent, a frigate, to go do that was a very bold mission. I'm not sure that Admiral Cooper did that with $2 billion Arleigh Burke class destroyers. I think he had a fairly good opinion that there were no mines in this area. So today marks that first meeting between Iranians and U.S. in Pakistan to discuss the ceasefire and a potential resolution of the conflict. Vice President J.D. Vance is representing the United States over there, so this is a huge event. We haven't really seen anything like this. But I want to make mention of one other thing, and this is an issue that's been floating around here. Go back over here to marine traffic for a second. This shows you right here the number of crude oil tankers over 150,000 tons that are sailing around the world. Notice a lot of them coming out of Asia here through the Malacca Straits, heading up and waiting here to get into the Persian Gulf. There's a lot stuck in the Persian Gulf, but there is a large line here heading around the Cape of Good Hope, heading up the coast of Africa to Nigeria, some heading across to Brazil, and then others heading up here northwest up toward the Americas, Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, and the United States. Going to go ahead and change this just a little bit. I want to show you empty crude tankers. So these are all the empty ships that are coming out of Asia, and what you see is this large grouping here of them heading this way. Today would have marked the day where if a crude tanker loaded at Ras Tandanora in the Persian Gulf in Saudi Arabia, they would have sailed around the Cape of Good Hope and been arriving in Europe or over in the United States. They're not arriving right now. We're not getting full oil tankers into Europe or into the Americas or down into Australia. And what we had was a decision had to be made here. How soon can the Strait of Hormuz be opened? And the very large crude carriers were piled up here. Well, now what we see is a large flux of them are heading southbound instead of heading toward the Persian Gulf. Some of them are still waiting there, but a large majority of them are now heading south, meaning they're going to head over to the Americas to load or up into Africa or Brazil to load. This means a couple of things. Yes, you're going to be able to get oil. It's great for the United States, great for Mexico, for Colombia, for Venezuela, Brazil, and West Africa. But it also means that the voyage to Asia is much longer, meaning ton miles have increased. That means whereas a ship could sail to the Persian Gulf and sail to Asia and deliver a load, well, now it's going to take twice as long because you got to sail this huge distance out. And remember, this is a Mercator projection of the world. Africa is a big, huge honking continent. It's going to take months to go from here back to Asia to offload. So this is going to be a long, protracted period. So just because we've seen 2 U.S. destroyers get into the Strait of Hormuz, don't for a minute think we're past the problem here, because the disruption that's been going on now for 6 weeks is going to take a long time to fix. About every day you have a disruption, it takes about a week to fix. So we're talking over 40 weeks, almost 2/3 of a year it's going to take to set this back up. Plus, even tomorrow, if the Strait of Hormuz opens back up and you can start flowing, it's going to take a while to reset everything. Ships are going to be piled up there waiting to go. It is not an easy fix. We saw this when Ever Given went sideways in the Suez Canal was shut for 6 weeks. It took 6 to 12 weeks to fix that situation. And what we're seeing right now is very much the same thing. Great news about the U.S. destroyers in. Good news if minesweeping is being done. The question is, how does Iran react to this? Because remember, U.S. destroyers can defend themselves. Commercial merchant ships can't. And we're going to be watching to see if commercial merchant ships start moving toward the Strait of Hormuz, the legal Strait of Hormuz, the one that's internationally recognized, not the one that Iran is trying to operate the toll booth. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. You can hit the Super Thanks button down below or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Wearing my Campbell University shirt today because we just had visitation day over at the university. And yes, for those of you eagle-eyed watching, I am building my new Maersk Lego ship in the background. I know you wanted me to say something about it, so I just had to. Till next episode, Sal, signing off.